Hello, hello, hello. Another video short for 17 p.m. Friday, March 21st, 2025. And yesterday was let's just say it, there was a win yesterday. There was a big win. In case you haven't heard, the Kim Iversen show, which is on my feed somewhere here. The Kim Iversen show, which you can subscribe to on Rumble. Yesterday had it looks like it was about an hour and 40 minutes long. It's actually one of her longer shows over the last couple of weeks anyways. So that's saying something. With Jonathan Cooey, our friend Jonathan Cooey of GigaHome Biological. And if you look at the views, it's already up to 143,000 views on Rumble. Now, you have to take it with a little bit of a grain of salt on Rumble. I've seen before when, I don't know if it has something to do with the way people share links, like in Substacks, or maybe share links on other sites, or perhaps through Twitter feeds. I've seen Rumble views get high faster than let's just say YouTube. Now, in some cases, it might be because more people go to Rumble for some type of content, but I think Rumble sometimes is a little bit loose when it comes to view counting. I'm not saying that they're all fake, but I'm saying, or any of these. But again, by the way, and if there is any inflation of views, that applies to all of those, right? I usually do not promote my Rumble videos because I don't want to get those fake views. I had a couple of people share links to one of my videos once on Rumble, and I just immediately saw thousands of extra views. And I know that they weren't real. I know they weren't really happening. That said, there's definitely tens of thousands of real views on this, which means it's at least an order of magnitude more than a typical Jonathan Cooey show, maybe even two, but it could be close to 100,000 real views. This is huge. This represents, and I'll let you click the one. I won't start it. This represents the most visibility the issue, for example, of supplemental oxygen, of the you have to be clear, right? If you say if high flow oxygen, 40 to 60 liters a minute, without the proper use of humidity, if you have to say the whole freaking phrase, people are just gonna lose interest and need to go off and get a sandwich. I mean, so we just very loosely say the careless use of high flow oxygen, the careless use, because that sort of encompasses it, right? Because the atmosphere is 20, 30 something percent oxygen, and we're not really designed to breathe in 80, 90, 100% oxygen for an extended period of time at pressure without humidity. Eventually, it does cause burning. It does cause damage. Now it's I've before, when I've said ARDS, I said acquired. It's actually acute respiratory distress syndrome, so I apologize for having said acquired. It goes to show that I'm still learning as I go. But the topic of this being part of the hospital protocols, which led people to express symptoms of a lung damage, which was symptomatically identified as COVID. That issue has never gotten this much visibility anywhere. Now, whether it lands properly and it causes a great awakening or awareness of this, I don't know. But you know what? It's one of the best bets so far to get out there. All we need is a few more people to go, wow. So when they created the perception of a ventilator shortage, I'm already getting off track here. But while there's a lot of focus on the different medications and ventilators and everything else, probably one of the most important parts of the hospital protocols, which caused damage, which was then described symptomatically as coronavirus or COVID-19, was the improper use, the errant use of oxygen. And you don't have to, this is not just our opinion. It is well documented that even through the 1980s, going back to the 1980s, the errant use of oxygen was actually the leading cause of injury in emergency rooms in the United States of America. I'll repeat that. The errant use, the excessive use of oxygen, was the number one cause of injuries in emergency rooms in the United States of America, or operating rooms, as far back as the 1980s. It's documented. There's papers on it. This is known. And this is why there's been so much advancement in technology and computer systems to automate this, because it's known to cause damage. And people were paranoid in early COVID-19, the little pulse ox things. They went to hospitals. Oh, there's not enough ventilators. Here, have this oxygen. Put on the oxygen mask. And then after 2 hours or 5 hours or whatever, oh my goodness, my breathing's getting more difficult. It must be because the virus is progressing. And then because the virus is progressing, even though it's ARDS caused by errant use of oxygen, then you're put on a ventilator so that you can relax your lungs. And nobody has picked up on this. All the focus is on the vents. Now, if you have ARDS, you're damaged. You now have an injury. And so now your things are done which are going to make the injury potentially even worse. Potentially even, now you could get sepsis. You can get a bacterial infection, which then you could die from if you don't get antibiotics. Likewise, I should say, going back to bad protocols, there is also this mantra of, well, antibiotics won't work if you have a viral infection. Long story short, it's all part of a protocol of which would seem to have been designed to lead to deaths. But nowhere has this issue gotten this type of visibility. Anyways, people can go check it out. I'm so proud of him. To be honest, and Jonathan Cooey said it today on his show, there's several things that he fumbled a little bit, and he could have said sharper. And you know what? I'm not sure I would have done any better myself. Matter of fact, I wouldn't have done as good as he did, given the opportunity. So it's a great interview to watch because it demonstrates the challenges that we still have and the opportunity that we still have to continue to rephrase how we say things and how we answer questions. Earlier on in the interview, probably about a third or so of the way in, Kim is asking the question of, so Jonathan, was there a virus? Was there a COVID-19 virus? Or do you believe that there was no virus? She sort of phrased it like that. And it's been a while since even I've been asked that question. And because I'm so comfortable not necessarily addressing it that way, I've almost forgotten that the majority of people that are still trying to figure out the mystery and understand what happened to coronavirus are still trapped trying to answer the question of where did the virus come from? Was there a virus? What's the nature of the virus? What laboratory did the virus come from? And I think Kim, and I'm so optimistic about her, because I could just tell her eye movement. It looked like she was really trying to figure it out. Now, she has preconceived ideas. That's not her fault. We all did. But she was really trying to understand it, what Jonathan was trying to say. And it reminded me that when someone asks that question, it can't be answered with anything that's long-winded because asking that question means that someone is already in a position where they can't solve the riddle. They can't solve the maze. I mean, you understand what a maze is, right? You enter the maze, and then you have a variety of decision points, different paths, and sometimes paths branch off into other different subpaths, if you will. And there's usually, most mazes are written so that there's usually only one correct route. And if you start going through the maze and you make several decisions, you reach a dead end. Well, you have to go back and trace your steps back and then try another direction. Eventually, you exhaust all of the dead ends. And the only way to actually reach the exit of the maze, assuming the maze has been designed properly, is to eventually track back far enough so you can go down a different path. It's a good way of thinking about it. When you ask, when you're at the point of asking, is there a virus, you're already too far down one path. You're not going to figure it out. We need to, instead of trying to explain the exosomal communication, instead of getting into what could be understood to be viruses and all of the other details, we almost have to just hit a reset button and be like, okay. And I still need to work on it, and John's still working on it. We're all working on this together. The response has to be, instead of getting into the specifics of the molecular biology, will you allow me to take you down the path of and again, I'm just thinking this out loud, of the multitude of ways in which there were an excess number of deaths during COVID, something like that, right? You have to get someone to relax, to actually stop thinking about, is there a virus question? Because once they're there, there's no escape. Because everything they want to see is going to be through the lens of, is there a virus or is there not a virus? Everything. You actually have to say, stop thinking about that. But you can't just say it like that, because people are going to be like, what do you mean? It's the most important question. But if you say, look, is it important to understand how people died? And of course, that's a rhetorical question. People are like, well, yeah. And you could say, will you allow me to review several ways which people died which have nothing to do with anything suggested to be a virus? Right? That is a way of positioning someone mentally for them to be like, okay, I'm willing to listen. And as they're listening, they're not going to be thinking of, how does this fit into the virus box? How does this fit into the virus box? They'll be like, okay, you want to tell me additional ways that people died, or ways that there were more deaths. Okay, that have nothing to do with the virus. Fine, I'm willing to listen. I'm putting aside my virus, my seeing everything through virology lens. Something like that. That's sort of like the strategy. And this is a big part of when I was developing literature to help sales engineers, for example, when I was in product marketing. It's always about trying to get people to ask the right questions, or to overcome fear, uncertainty, and doubt, etc. And this is actually, in some ways, kind of a U-turn, right? Or objection handling, but it's not really objection handling. It's actually, reframing the entire conversation, because the long description of everything you thought you understood about virology is sort of a misconception. It takes a long time to get there, and someone isn't really going to even be able to hear it while they're still trying to understand how all the deaths occurred. Something like that. So we're still working on it, and I think Jonathan did great overall. I'm very, very, very proud of him. I can't believe the opportunity came, and it shines very positively on Kim, and I'm also thankful for Dan Cohen. He's not of Redacted, but his work is often showcased on Redacted. That he aired a long interview with Jonathan Cooey as well, and Cohen also at the same time also several times asked, so why did this pandemic happen? He sort of asked several times and phrased it different ways, and we need to address that as well. And I think what Dan Cohen was going for there was, or one way you can think about it here, is to best understand or any crime. All right, you always start off with presenting the motive. So while there was, I believe, murder or policies designed to kill people, while I believe there was a drug epidemic, which might have actually been allowed engineered fuel to kill people, while there was a lot of, misleading media out there to make people scared, to confuse people, that caused a lot of pain and agony and and family breakups and everything else. That's all true, but why? What's going on here? Why did it happen? What was the motive? Oh, why? Some people are jerks. Some people wanted money. What was it? What was the motive? And a mistake that I make, and a mistake that Jonathan Cooey sometimes makes as well, if I may be so bold, we're all in this together, is to not get to the motive first. And the motive usually has to be something simple like this, right? Something like, what we understand as vaccination, okay, is actually a critical component of gathering data from the existing human population for the purposes of advancing the knowledge of the human genome. And there has been more money and more hours and energy invested into understanding the machinery of human life than just about any other scientific endeavor in all of civilization. And it has been understood that the only way to advance it is through the practice of vaccination or something like that, right? Now, I probably did not say that as best as I could, which is why you have to keep rehashing these things. And of course, people, that doesn't cover all the scenarios, but it gives someone an idea of and immediately be like, oh, wow, so where does money come into this? Like, well, of course, there's a lot of money. There's a lot of money been invested, generations, and there's companies, and people want to see returns, and then people will say, well, so do vaccines help at all? And you can be like, well, then you can get into the details of what the vaccines are really doing and not doing. Then you can maybe get into a little bit more of the details of what's being learned. But it has to be really high level like that first. And you also need to, I think, part of the pitch in there, you have to get people to understand the magnitude of this pursuit of the human genome, of the magnitude of the pursuit of understanding the machinery of life, of human life. It is the longest running, most highly funded endeavor, scientific endeavor or project, perhaps in all of human civilization, and it's still ongoing. It's been ongoing for at least 100 years, almost 100 years right now. I would state the real kickoff is World War II and the Manhattan Project. That's kind of where it really started to crystallize into a real project. And here we are. And then from there, if someone says, well, this company or you don't think it's Bill Gates wanting to make some additional money through some patents or whatever, someone would immediately see how ludicrous it would be to present such small potatoes ideas when you just laid down a foundation of it's everything. It's for all the marbles. It's the inversion of rights. It's eugenics. It's eugenics on steroids. It's so many other things. And if people would ask, well, why would they want to do that? And then we could start having a list of, well, some people believe that in order for humans to reach their potential, we need to live longer so that we can, leave the planet and reach the stars. And some people may talk about the Christ consciousness. And some people may say that, look, there's going to be we're in the middle of an ice age, which is eventually going to make it difficult for humans to live on the planet. There's all kinds of different, justifications from there, and you can spar over that. But they're all ultimately united by a belief that it may be possible to greatly advance our understanding of the machinery of human life to the point where we can extend it and augment it and accomplish a variety of other things. Now, there's differences of opinion on who should control it, who should own it, where should the data be, what's the end goals, what are we afraid of first? And that's all great for conversation and for arguments and for debate and everything else. But it reorients the conversation and it puts someone in a position and finding the way through the maze where they're not already stuck down a path where there's no way out. And it's taken me so long because I started off the pandemic already down one path that was too far, having chronic fatigue in the family and what I thought was Lyme disease, which I think is really a lifelong immune system dysregulation, basically damage caused probably by could have been a smallpox vaccine or something like that. Earlier in life, I was already down this path of vaccines and viruses and bioweapons, and it took me a while to figure out how to get out of that trap. Or because I was just too far down the path. I had to take multiple steps back. So this video here just highlights, it would have been great if we had the perfect answer. I say we as if we're all working together, but we are. Or Jonathan had the perfect answer ready to go. But that's okay. He got the opportunity. It's getting a ton of views. It might be one of the highest viewed videos that she has for the month. It might actually be her most watched video for the month. It's on a very solid trajectory so far. And I know she's independent enough, I believe, that she wants views. And her advertisers want views. As a matter of fact, I might even make a purchase, if I can, of something that she advertised in this video, just to make it clear that this is the topic and these are the people that's going to help her continue to advance. But what matters is you get the visibility, and now you go, okay, so how do we get it better next time, right? And I think there's going to be a lot more next times right now. So anyways, check it out, guys. It's a great video. I'm very proud of Jonathan, and I think we're making a lot of great progress here. Occam's broom. I'm going to get me out in Occam's broom. I love that phrase, the Occam's broom. Yeah, I just did a short reading from Sidney Brenner earlier on, the late Sidney Brenner, and I am so overjoyed at discovering, I think, some of the more interesting people that the history has overlooked, and learning about them myself, and as I learn about them, sharing them with you. And this pursuit of the human genome, I mean, there's a lot of different groups within there. Remember, there's people who believe, there are some people who are very, very almost godless, and computer-like, very spooky. There's many different subgroups within there. There are groups that are really legitimately confused, or I should say concerned about the future of the planet, right? I mean, there's a significant amount of data that shows that, yeah, Earth is beautiful right now, but it's not always as comfortable, and different people have different ideas, different motivations, and they have different beliefs about how to implement, how to advance the knowledge, or if it should even be advanced at all. And I think we lose a lot by, and I'm guilty of doing this myself, by grouping them all together. It's just one homogenous group of angry, selfish scientists, and that's not really true. In fact, anyways, I think Sidney Brenner's an interesting one. And I know I speak extensively about it, Joshua Lederberg. I think he was, I think he was smart enough to know that this machinery was going to happen. This big act was going to happen, and he knew what to do. At least politically, I think he was savvy enough to always position himself in the right place, and nudge things as they happen. But anyways, that's a whole nother story here. Cheap viewers. I don't even know what that is. I hope I'm not misunderstanding this, but I don't think I need to see that. How do I get that one? Possible ban evader. I don't know. I'm. There we go. The interview got better as it went along. Kim appeared to want to understand. Yes, I agree, Fletch. I saw Kim trying to understand, and it's a lot. It's a lot. Well, Kim covers a lot of other topics. I'm impressed. I mean, today she's covering, what was it today? I forget what it was. She gets into some of the more conspiratorial things from time to time. I mean, whatever. I give her credit, though. I give her a lot of credit, and I'm thankful. And I could tell she was trying to understand, and it is a lot. I need to be honest. Jay needs to be honest. It's a lot. You can't convey all the information by using with all the details. You need to start very, very high level. Sort of like you should eat good food because you want to live a long, healthy life. Right? You have to start off like really high level before you describe why, I don't know, some supplement helps. And get into the molecular biology of I don't know, some additive or whatever. You need to start really high level. And this is why all commercials be like, don't you want to live an extra 5 years? Don't you want to be able to, have a strong back so you can, as a grandparent, you can be active with your grandchildren or something like that, right? You have to be really high level. You can't just kick it off, well, let's get into the details of how the spinal column is constructed, and then work your way up. You always have to start at the big picture and work your way down. So there's that. And then there's also this, people have been, it was designed, I guess, this way for people to be positioned to ask the wrong questions. Sort of like how the longer video that I was playing earlier about the measles vaccine and autism. It's autism disorder, and there's all this focus on MMR. And no one there will say, and there's always people are encouraged to never say vaccine injury or damage, or autism caused by damage. And there's a lot of discouragement from talking about, maybe it's impossible to show the data that the MMR vaccine is linked to autism disorder or damage. However, it's very easy to show that children that have never been vaccinated with anything are almost uniformly highly functioning children. It's not clear which one it is. But if they are overall healthier, if they are overall, sleeping better, more relaxed, happier, testing for a higher IQ, then does it even really matter which vaccine it is? So that whole discussion, and a lot of the parents that are at that event, this is back in 2000, the 6-hour congressional hearing that I was playing, they're all asking the wrong questions. And the poor parents that have had children which have been legitimately injured, they don't know that they're in the trap either. They don't know. And the more they side with and try to help someone like Andrew Wakefield or think they're being helped, the further trapped they become, sadly. And I guess this is a good opportunity for me to say that today, March 21st, 2025, today would be it is the birthday celebration of Brandy Vaughn. And if it wasn't for just a chance airing of a presentation that Brandy Vaughn did back in 2008 or 18 approximately by Jonathan Cooey, I don't think either one of us would have revisited her work. And it's been wonderful because it highlights someone that was saying it the right way, that wasn't getting caught up in the virus vaccine question, that was just saying, look, she had an unvaccinated child who was extremely healthy and very happy. And I'm sure he's still healthy and high functioning and happy, presuming he's still free of that, but now he has to live the rest of his life having lost his mother at age 10. Because she died on December 7th, 2020. But Brandy Vaughn said it right, and the silence of people who knew Brandy Vaughn, in particular Children's Health Defense, not even spelling her name right on their website, not saying anything. Judy Mikovits, Brian Hooker, and other representatives, when they were on videos about how awful it was that she was lost in December of 2020 or even January 2021, it looks very poorly. It looks very poor. But let's not remember that part today. Let's just be thankful that someone else did it right. They were all in, and they were all in, I believe for all the right reasons. And I'm hopeful that other people can see her presentations. I've done a great job. I think I've done a lot of work in trying to archive and collect her videos. Some other people on Odyssey, search for Brandy Vaughn on Odyssey, and you'll find someone who's usually in my chat here has done an amazing playlist, like 50, 60 videos or more on Brandy Vaughn, on her work between 2015 and 2020. And here we are. And I could never live up to that, everything she's did, but she is an inspiration for me to do this. I will say that in my extended family, there are youth who are not vaccinated. And they are some of the most amazing youths, young people I've ever known. And initially I was skeptical about it. But I think fate had it that there are some completely unvaccinated young adults in the family who have made it clear through their remarkable health and attitude and intellect and curiosity and athleticism and everything else, how beneficial it has been for them to avoid intramuscular injection. It's so obvious. It is so obvious. And I think Brandy Vaughn saw that in her son as well. And it's something worth fighting for. And Brandy Vaughn didn't say that she should be listened to because she's a victim. She's saying that she said to that she had something for people to hear because she was a victor. And she wanted other people to be victors as well. She wanted other children to be victors as well. She didn't want other children injured. She didn't want other children having to live a life below their God-given potential. There's a big difference between that and having a an injured, a damaged child, and not wanting that to happen. I mean, of course, if you have an injured child, you should not want anyone else to have that. But it also, and maybe people who have vaccine injured children may not always see it this way. It also puts someone in a position where they may be encouraging the wrong thing. It may be, oh, you really should avoid this shot or that shot. You really should wait until this age for that shot. Whereas the whole kit and caboodle is covered when you just see an unvaccinated child, an unvaccinated young adult, and you're like, wow, what planet were they born on? They're almost not even human anymore. And Brandy Vaughn had that. And I've seen it. And let me tell you, holy cow. If I can even just get one or two more children in the world, or for someone to make that decision for their children, then everything I'm doing right now will have been paid off. Will have been worth it. And hopefully it's a lot more than that, though. So that's it, guys. Check out the video. Again, you can, even just by the title alone, Ultimate COVID Hoax was RFK Jr.'s researcher says the virus never existed. We need to work on that. Likewise, she's never heard about the oxygen before. Likewise, she's never really thought about the opioid deaths before and how that fits in. I think the door is opened, and I think the fresh air is coming in. I think this was a big win, and we're going to review it, and we're going to get the responses better and sharper, and it's just going to become unstoppable. Thank you guys very much. Have a great evening. God bless, and thank you everyone for the support. P.O. Box 505, Southborough, Massachusetts. HughesTonic.live. I have the info there. Any support on Patreon or PayPal is greatly appreciated. To cover books, to cover subscriptions, to cover equipment, and so on and so forth. You know what the mission is for, et cetera, et cetera. We'll do another live stream tomorrow. I promise. Take care. God bless.